My name is Joe Fitzpatrick. I am presenting to you today about the tools of the NSA playset. First, a brief bit about me. I am an electrical engineer by education. I had a bit of focus on computer science and information security, but I'm a hardware guy, fundamentally at the bottom of it. I've had 10 fun years with hardware, doing silicon debug on desktop and server CPUs. I've done security research. I've done hardware pen testing of desktop CPUs, and I've done a lot of security training, hardware security training, particularly for people who are hardware testers, functional testers, but not security testers. I teach 2 classes currently. One is software exploitation via hardware exploits, which is an awesome class if any of you want to take it. It's going to be offered at Black Hat this year. I also have a secure hardware development class and workshop, which is all about applying SDL, the security development lifecycle, to hardware projects, which is not something most hardware companies do yet. So what is the NSA playset? What toys are in it? What are my favorite toys? Who are we and why? And some questions. So what is the NSA playset? Who's heard of the NSA playset before? I can't see any of you, so a few of you. So this is not a leaked classified government document. This is a fake one put together by Mike Osman about the HackRF, right? So last year, the Ant catalog was a whole catalog full of spy toys, little electronic devices developed by a group within the NSA or the US intelligence community. And they were tools that did things that might be useful to spies. Don't worry, there will be no classified documents presented in this presentation, so none of you that might be feds need to leave. But it looked a lot like this. We had a lot of information about what these things were, what their purpose was, and sometimes how much they cost. And most of them were from a few years ago, but a lot of us are like, well, this isn't magic. We can implement all this stuff with hardware we have and software we have in open source, so let's do that. So we put together the NSA playset, right? How many of you remember Spy Tech? They were toys about 25, 30 years ago. They're little like spy toys, like a long-range microphone and stuff like that. It's kind of the same idea. We wanted to take all this stuff and turn it into something that was accessible to the next generation of hardware hackers, security, kids and stuff. So as you can see, we have a number of, we have a laser pointer that doesn't laze. We have a number of different code names that look a lot like, equation group code names. NSA code names. And so I was just going to go through and talk about the toys that are already out there. Again, I didn't develop all these toys. I developed 1 or 2 of them, and other people have developed all these. I'll mention kind of who and what as we go through. So if you wanted to go out and buy these things, Conga Flock, right? Mike Osman put this together. It's called a Retroreflector, right? This is a picture of a replica of The Thing, which is a bug that was found in the Great Seal of the US Embassy in Russia. And basically, it was a passive device that, when illuminated with a radio wave, would reflect radio waves back, but would reflect radio waves that carried the audio that was picked up by the little speaker that was in there. So it's a passive listening device, which is pretty interesting. And there hasn't been any information on this for many years until this Ant catalog was released. So Mike Osman threw together a little schematic of how this thing should work. And he made a couple different versions of it. So there's Conga Flock in the top left corner. That is like barely a ½ centimeter square. It's got 2 radios. And it responds to whether you shoot it with what he uses, a Hot Wheels radar gun, which is a standing radio wave, and reads the response back with one of his HackRFs. And he can actually see whatever bit this end of the input is connected to, right? So you can put this in a number of different situations. You can throw it between 2 VGA adapters on the I2C communication link and call it Salsa Flock. You can put it on USB and monitor USB traffic and call it Tango Flock. And I forget the name for the keyboard monitoring circuit. Basically, all of these things are passive monitors on important critical lines inside of a system, which can be done very cheaply. And again, it's a couple square centimeters, a ½ square centimeter, and it's really cheap. Next tool, this was Dean Pierce and Loki. They put together what's called Twilight Vegetable. And basically, they brought together years and years and years of GSM hacking into a tool set that would be easy to use for, say, a 12-year-old. So Twilight Vegetable is a custom boot environment for basic GSM monitoring, and it's a little SanDisk USB drive. That's all it is, right? We got all the software, put it into a bootable image, you plug it in, and it boots up, and the tools are ready there and waiting to go. It also includes this new electric RTL SDL dongle. This is actually a TV tuner that costs about $20 off the shelf. What's great about this TV tuner is it receives a wide range of radio signals and lets you, in software, process them. You can actually tune this little circuit to receive GSM signals, and you can use the software installed on this USB device to decode all of that. To take care of some of the encryption things, they came up with, oh, sorry, one more thing. Leviticus, which is very similarly named to a name I'm forgetting, the NSA playset, sorry, the NSA Ant Catalogs version. It's a phone flashed with a custom firmware that actually works as an even better radio for hooking up than this new electric RTL SDL dongle. So this phone is designed to receive GSM signals, and with a custom firmware, you can have it receive all GSM signals so that you can log them on your laptop. But encrypted data is no good without a way to decrypt it, so Drizzled shares costs $100. It's essentially a USB hard drive, custom formatted with a bunch of rainbow tables to allow you to crack all the encryption for GSM. So right here, we've got basically, in the range of $150, you have a tool set you can load onto your computer and listen to GSM stuff. Pretty cool. It's like playing NSA at home, right? Chuckwagon is kind of modeled after Wagon Bed, which is one of the tools in the Ant catalog, and it's an I2C implant, right? An implant is a device that you stick in someone's hardware to do something. And the guy who put this together, Josh Atko, he's like, oh, well, where can I get I2C on a system? And believe it or not, your VGA connector, you can see in the bottom right, your VGA connector, your HDMI connectors, they all carry I2C information. That's how they read the details about your monitor. There's actually a little chip inside the monitor that says, I am a Dell 30-inch flat screen. I am an Apple 27-inch Thunderbolt display or something like that. And what he did is he made a little adapter and connected it to this board that he had lying around, connected to a BeagleBone Black, and was able to pretend to be a device on the I2C bus, right? So this implant was specifically used to coordinate things with some software that was existing on the system. So you would have malware on the system that would need to exfiltrate data. How can it exfiltrate data when everything else is monitored? Well, if you have this implant on I2C, you could tell the video driver to write stuff on the I2C bus. Instead of asking about the monitor, you tell it, all the secret files you've got on there. What he did is he also hooked it up to the shield on the left, which is an adapter for BeagleBone Black to talk to an Arduino shield. At the very bottom is an Arduino shield, which has a GSM module on it, right? So there's a lot more stuff in this picture, but this is off-the-shelf components he munged together and was able to have a device which will exfiltrate data from your system over the VGA connector over GSM networks, right? Pretty cool. Tiny Alamo is a recent addition. This does Bluetooth keystroke surveillance and injection. Mike Ryan, he does a lot of research on Bluetooth low energy and bundled this package of tools together into the NSA playset. Basically, all you need is your Bluetooth adapter and PyBT, which is a library for controlling Bluetooth, basically a stack. So you have your laptop, right? You're doing some really hard work on your Barbie laptop, and you hook up your brand new Bluetooth keyboard. You pair the two. You share a key, make sure that it's secure so no one can read your keystrokes, right? Well, if a bad guy comes in, right, he can actually connect to the laptop and break the connection that you have with the existing Bluetooth keyboard. And some operating systems will actually say, oh, yeah, so you don't want to use encryption. That's OK. Why don't we just repair and share the keys all over again? So it's pretty easy to go in, slip in, and take over the keyboard connection, or even just surreptitiously listen to it. Turnip School. This is hot off the presses. This was presented last month at ShmooCon. This is a USB cable implant that can store and transmit USB data, right? So this is a layout from several months ago. Cottonmouth was the Ant catalog tool, and what it had was the ability to exist inside of a cable. It looked like a regular USB cable, but it would store and transmit data. So is this possible? So Mike went and laid out this circuit board, right? He's got a USB hub and a TI USB to wireless chip on there. And actually, in time for ShmooCon, actually assembled one of these. So you've all seen a USB cable. Does that look like a USB cable to you? Granted, it's hobbyist, and he threw it together with some epoxy and Sugru to make it a little moldable plastic head. But it doesn't seem like it's any bigger than a regular cable. But what it does is it has a radio on there. And again, just like the I2C implant, right? Malware will be able to know that this is going to be there. It would be able to know what radio is on there and know that it can exfiltrate data off of this. Depending on how you were able to configure the USB chip on there, you could probably do some other features as well. You know, everybody asks, like, oh, so can this just copy everything that comes over USB? That wasn't actually the use case that was presented in the ANT catalog, and that's not how this is designed yet. But theoretically, there's no reason it shouldn't be doable. And finally, Duchess Ride. This was actually a tool that was around just before the NSA playset started, but we've branded it with a cool, you know, Equinox group, or equation group style name. It's a USB implant that allows for USB middling, man in the middle. This is a BeagleBone Black. It's a single board computer that costs $45. It's got a USB client port and a USB host port. Duchess Ride is essentially a set of software that lets you be the man in the middle between USB. It does have applications, so you can sanitize USB transactions. You can plug in a device and make sure it doesn't do bad things. Make sure if you plug in a device that's unknown, it will only be a mass storage controller, not a mass storage controller and a radio. But it's also got surreptitious purposes because just like the Turnip School cable, you can do stuff. You can modify traffic. You can monitor traffic. There's quite a bit of versatility that you can have inside this device. So onward, what's my favorite NSA playset toys? Of course, they're the ones I put together myself. So mine is called Slot Screamer. That's the foundation to all of it. It's actually a PCI Express attack platform. I found a chip, the USB 3380AB, and this chip is designed to be a bridge between PCI Express and USB. This is not what you might think where you plug a card in your system and suddenly you have a USB port you can connect another printer to. This is the other way around. You plug this card in your system, and now your PC is a device that can hook up to another computer, right? And what it allows, so it's a cheap board. This board costs like 60 or 70 US dollars versus the thousands of dollars that some of the FPGA solutions people have proposed for DMA access and PCI Express attacks. USB on one side, PCI Express on the other side. It gives the user the ability to, from USB, send out arbitrary PCI Express transactions. I can have USB software on my laptop that hooks up to this device in your computer and tell it, I want to read this space in memory. And what it will do, it'll send a PCI Express memory read to that location and send the data right back to me. Full memory access, unless you have an IOMMU or virtualization that is specifically blocking hardware access to certain memory regions, there is no other hardware protection against this. This is what your system looks like. When you are a PCI Express endpoint all the way at the end, you can walk all the way up to the switch, to the root complex, and to memory, to other devices on the bus, and you still never have to cross that line, the head of the tree, which talks to the CPU. The CPU, the software side of the world, doesn't even need to know that you're there or what you're doing. Sounds like fun. But PCI Express is an internal connection, right? It's really hard to go and sneak in and put a card in someone's laptops or desktop slot, and laptops don't even have these full-size PCI Express slots. So Halibut Dugout is taking this Slot Screamer card and popping it inside a Thunderbolt enclosure because Thunderbolt carries PCI Express, right? So this is a Thunderbolt enclosure. The card is right there inside. You close it up, and now you've got this giant box that you can plug into any Mac's Thunderbolt port and perhaps, their caveats, access all of memory. It's kind of large, though, so there's an alternate version, Guppy Dugout, because guppies are smaller than halibut. This is an Express card version of the exact same PCI Express device. So Express card exists in some older laptops. It's basically a PCI Express port that you can plug a card into. Guppy Dugout is this cool little tiny Thunderbolt to Express card slot that you can connect this directly to with a lot less hardware than you would have to do it with anything else. So there we go, Guppy Dugout, this little box that works very well. But all of this stuff requires you to sneak in there and connect to someone's computer, and they actually have to be unlocked. You have to, well, there are lots of caveats of how you use this. But how can we convince people to just plug this in for us, right? How many of you have ever presented at a meeting or at a conference? How many of you have walked in and needed to hook up your computer and didn't see the adapter you needed for your laptop? Okay. Well, that's great, because isn't it nice when you walk in and the cable's already there, the cable you need, right? It's got your Apple adapter for your Apple proprietary port. So Alloy Viper looks like it's a VGA cable, right? Looks like one of those clunky old VGA cables that might be in a conference room. But really inside, it's a Thunderbolt cable, right? This Thunderbolt cable can hook up to a halibut dugout, right? And Thunderbolt is great because it does pass-through, right? And at the other end, we actually plug a genuine DisplayPort to VGA adapter. So I could come up here with my laptop, I'd plug this cable in, unless I noticed it was open plastic on the bottom. I could have done a better cosmetic job. I would see my screen show up on the projector, right? I don't have any reason to suspect anything different, while under the table could be that box that, while I'm presenting with my screen unlocked, is going and copying all of memory. So, and it's pretty easy to make. You grab a Thunderbolt cable and a modular telephone jack and the DISA miniature hood. You get these at Radio Shack, but that might not be an option for long, so you're going to have to find another source since Radio Shack is going down the tubes. And some heat shrink tubing to disguise that striking white Apple cable as a crappy old black VGA cable. Take things apart, thread the cable through, right? Put some heat shrink tubing over it, attach your enclosure, and bam, it passes, most people's, not second glances that they would give to this kind of thing. So who and why? The tools of the NSA playset was actually referring to the equipment, not the people. We are security researchers. We are hardware hackers, people who play with hardware for fun. We develop hardware. We design hardware. We're hobbyists. We're professionals, too. There's other nerds, geeks, dorks, probably some undercover agents that are on this mailing list of a few hundred people who are interested in this stuff. Some tinfoil hat wearers, of course, but if they can do good work, what does it matter, right? Why are we doing this? Intelligence agencies are not magic. If we were to read all the media that came out when the Ant catalog was leaked, we would think that, like, oh, wow, look, the NSA is such high-tech stuff, they can make all these magic computer things that do bad stuff. It's not magic. It's all pretty basic. It also doesn't cost $50,000 per item, as the NSA Ant catalog says. It could be $50, it could be $20, it could be $100 for very similar capabilities. Again, we're talking about hacker level, tinkerer level equipment, fun toys. We're not talking about, nation-state level spy capabilities. But if this capability exists, designers need to know how to protect against this, right? Apple has done some good stuff for protecting Thunderbolt on later MacBooks from this kind of attack, luckily. But it took actually demonstrating some of these attacks for them to fix that stuff. Nation-state capabilities might be out of scope. You can pull the Sony excuse, oh, it was a nation-state, it's not our fault. But cheap DIY hacker tools should not be out of scope if you're trying to scope what security you need to protect against. And again, if any 12-year-old can do it, the design flaw will likely be fixed. An example that we keep referring back to is all the issues with stealing session keys, right? Until Firesheep, the little plugin that let you steal Facebook sessions came out, and anybody could go and steal someone's Facebook session for a coffee shop Wi-Fi network. That was when everybody started using SSL a little more appropriately, because a 12-year-old could do it. So if we open this hardware up to some 12-year-olds, maybe we'll get some more work done to secure some of these issues that we're encountering. But really, the real reason is because it's fun. This is what I do for fun, so I'm happy to do it. And I have 30 seconds left under my 20 minutes, so any questions? I can't actually see anyone, so. Normally I can just see a little bit, but. Oh.
According to the agenda, you actually had 30 minutes, but let's just fill it up with questions and tequila. So,
that sounds good.
Are there any questions? Actually, there was a camera here. Questions, remarks, orders for this stuff.
Yeah?
We got a few orders from the back of the room here. Yeah, a question.
Think about the back doors, in all the hardware trying to find this stuff. I know there's another session right after this on that, but I just wanted to get your take on that. You know, the Cisco's and Nortels and everybody going, uh-oh, or our stuff's getting intercepted and, you know, stuff's getting put in there.
Well, you know, I think some of the things we're showing is that these backdoors, these things that are added to can be added to the system, are actually pretty easy to add. There's nothing magic about what they're adding. They're not taking it to some secret lab and shooting lasers at it. They're just opening it up and putting a card in a slot, soldering a connector on a board. I'm very interested to see the next talk as well, because it kind of relates very well. Does that help answer your question? Do you want me to give a couple details about, about Slot Screamer, my device? If I can, Can I get slides back up, or, don't worry about it. Oh, there we go. So Slot Screamer device is a PCI Express device. The way that PCI Express works is it automatically enumerates everything. So when you turn on your system, the CPU tells the root complex who's there. The root complex goes through sequentially and checks every path until it finds all the devices in the system. So when you plug this device in, it shows up in this list, right? OK. But then it needs to load a driver, right? There used to be there still are a series of Thunderbolt, FireWire-based attacks, where FireWire gives you DMA access to a system. That depends on a FireWire driver being loaded in the system. You have to load a FireWire driver, which from the operating system enables all those DMA accesses to memory and hardware. With Slot Screamer, though, we're doing this at a level below, right? We don't need a driver installed. All we need is the root complex to enumerate, and then we have access to the PCI Express infrastructure, right? There are some things that can be done, some bits that can be set, and again, Apple's doing probably the best job of anyone doing these things, of preventing DMA accesses, of preventing memory regions from being accessed by certain devices. But again, that's not universal. If you go and look in Linux, you plug a device in and you do an LSPCI, which gives you all your details about your PCI Express devices, every single one of them is enabled. Every single one of them has Busmaster enabled. Every single device, PCI Express device in a standard Linux install can access any other device in the system and all of memory. Again, I can do it without the CPU knowing what's going on, without the software state of the system being perturbed at all. And I have some, you can come take a look at these afterwards too. So.
One last question before we close off. 1, 2. OK, applause for Joe.